another Russian terrorist attack against civilians in Mykolaiv. There was a strike on a passenger train car, and witnesses have shared footage from the scene. Which train it was has not yet been reported. According to railway workers, a monitoring group spotted the enemy drone in the air in time and people were evacuated. However, one man, a train inspector, sustained minor shrapnel wounds. According to official data, since the beginning of March, this is already the 18th Russian attack on railway infrastructure. During this time, they have managed to damage more than 40 facilities. Ukrzaliznytsia says that the Russians have intensified their attacks and that rolling stock is among their main targets. Locomotives, freight cars, and specialized equipment used for infrastructure repairs are also being targeted. The occupiers are also attacking railway depots and bridges. Most of the shelling occurs near the front line. 129 enemy drones were destroyed last night, the air forces of Ukraine. In total, there were 20 more in the air. One was brought down by debris, and 19 hit 15 locations. And most of the enemy drones were Shaheds. The attack is ongoing, and right now there are still some in the airspace. There are still several enemy drones, so do not neglect safety rules, and if possible, head to a shelter. The occupiers want to add another 50,000 enemy crews this year as they expand their drone unit Rubicon. This would be a disaster for logistics in combat zones, say the defense forces, because whoever controls logistics is able to hold their positions. So far, there is no systematic solution within the unmanned systems forces for eliminating enemy pilots. However, there are now more units on the front line equipped with interceptor drones that shoot down the occupiers' UAVs. Special TSN correspondent Yulia Kiriyenko saw how they operate in the skies over Kostiantynivka. So here is her report.
This is an interceptor drone from the air defense unit of the 93rd Brigade Kholodny Yar taking off into the sky. The anti-aircraft drone, which is mainly used to shoot down enemy drones, was first spotted by a small FPV drone. It's the same kind that our pilots use to attack enemy positions. However, it all depends on the pilot's skills and the battery, how quickly this drone can chase the enemy in the sky, and how accurately it can hit the target. The drone General Chereshnya is flying in search of a target. In a special program, the pilots can see that a Russian Molniya has entered their area of operation. And even though the weather is difficult for flying today, the occupiers are still launching their cheap drones in swarms, hoping that at least one will reach its target. To prevent this from happening, our interceptor units are also circling in the sky.
We've detected the enemy Molniya, and now we're directing it towards the interception point.
The enemy Molniya is heading into the operational zone of a neighboring air defense position. So the soldiers turn the aircraft around and get ready for the next flights. Another batch.
The weather now allows us to perform certain maneuvers. That is, to prepare the drones in advance. The most important thing is to hit these targets. So it's been hit. Good. The day wasn't wasted.
This interceptor crew specializes not only in shooting down Russian Molniyas, but also enemy fixed-wing reconnaissance drones. Even though they're not strike drones, the intelligence they can transmit to the Russians is sometimes even more dangerous. The Kholodny Yar fighters say they call them Kadze drones. They show a photo of one of the largest drones these two soldiers managed to destroy.
This is that very same Orlan that was shot down. I'm about 195 centimeters tall. The Orlan is a bit longer than I am. Than me.
This Orlan cost Russia up to $100,000. But now, thanks to these warriors, it's just a pile of wreckage. And the Kholodny Yar fighters joke that this isn't even their top shoot-down. They say that back when the Russians were massively equipping drones with Starlinks, shooting down such specimens brought a special kind of satisfaction.
What I liked most was when I shot down a Molniya that was flying with a Starlink on board. I hit the Starlink directly. I hit the Starlink antenna directly.
And by doing so, he saved his comrades, says the soldier Artem. This very moment was captured by the interceptor drone's camera. Drones equipped with Starlink in Ukrainian skies created major problems because, firstly, they were controlled by an enemy pilot online, allowing him to dodge interceptor strikes. And they could fly to any point in the country. Secondly, they were extremely resistant to electronic warfare. After Starlinks were disconnected, the Russians can no longer fly such drones. However, unfortunately, the occupiers still have plenty of other types of drones, and they are even testing new ones.
The Zala Dodger, that's what we call them, because when you approach the target, it sees it's an interceptor drone, and it starts making these wild maneuvers, dodging. Usually it dives down. The strike drone Kamikaze Lancet picks up speed because they are very fast. Even their cruising economical speed is 110 kilometers per hour.
Not long ago, the occupiers received a modernized Storm drone. According to intelligence, their distinctive feature is that the bore is capable of carrying up to 25 kilograms of cargo, which is several times more, so it flashes by, meaning it's more dangerous, the soldiers say. Nothing like this has been recorded in the skies over Kostiantynivka before. However, they are confident it will be shot down too. Moreover, there are no problems with the equipment needed for the job.
We managed to intercept and destroy most of them.
In a single day, our interceptor pilots shoot down more than 1,500 Russian drones of various types over the front line. These are the figures from the general staff. And that's millions of dollars turning into scrap thanks to these small Ukrainian anti-aircraft FPV drones, which cost at most up to 50,000 hryvnias. So the Russians are constantly upgrading their drone fleet, their aircraft. They were becoming less accessible.
The main task is to spot them visually, and then we can catch up, intercept, or somehow ambush them.
Aerial battles in the sky over Kostiantynivka never stop. Just over this city, up to 5,000 drones are recorded per day. And that really is a huge number. Because it is with these that the occupiers are trying to seize control over this section of the front. Because whoever controls logistics has the advantage in battle. Yulia Kirienko, Alexander Shian, TSN1+, Marathon, United News.
Friendly fire in Russia last night while chasing Ukrainian drones. Their air defense forces shot down their own helicopter. Locals filmed a video of it exploding and crashing. This happened in the Rostov region near the Milerovo military airfield. There is no official confirmed information about the downing yet, but Russian Z-bloggers, as always, are already blaming Ukraine even for the inept work of Russian air defense. A bright fire on a Russian ship under sanctions. A tanker carrying liquefied gas is burning in the Mediterranean Sea. The exact cause of the fire is currently unknown. A source for Reuters suggests that the tanker may have caught fire after a drone attack. The crew, whose fate was previously unknown, was found in a lifeboat closer to Libya. The ship is part of the Russian Shadow Fleet and is under American and European sanctions. The war in the Middle East is a direct consequence of the destruction of international law following the Russian invasion. This statement was made by Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. According to her, it all started with the war in Ukraine when Russia attacked a neighboring state, sending a signal to the whole world that the rules no longer apply. And this unleashed chaos, Meloni said, adding that it is a mistake to consider the war in Europe as something distant, because it is already ongoing.
I am concerned about the overall context, the crisis in international law, which is an inevitable result of the war in Ukraine. When a member of the UN Security Council recklessly attacked its neighbor, it was inevitable that this would lead to a period of chaos. Yes, I am concerned. It would be unwise to think that what is happening far from our borders does not concern us. At a time when international law is faltering, we cannot allow the current Iranian regime to possess long-range missiles with nuclear warheads.